Welcome to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your essence and live from a place of personal freedom. If you're interested in learning more about our courses, mentoring and workshops, feel free to visit wayoftheheart.com.au. We're so glad you're here and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Way of the Heart, Heart Riffing podcast, number 5. And Jess has got a good one in store for us today. What is it?
I feel like I've been sitting on this one for a while. I've wanted to talk about this one ever since we thought we were going to have a podcast. But this one is, there's no magic framework. And it's a bit tongue-in-cheek when I say that.
There's not?
Yeah. Shock horror, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of playing on the idea that there is no way to shortcut living from the heart. And often previously when people have talked to you about Way of the Heart, the pushback has been, just give me something practical. Just give me a framework.
Yeah.
And there is no magical framework.
Right. Thanks for throwing me in the...
I didn't even ask you a question. I'm just
Thanks for throwing me in the proverbial.
Here's a statement.
Yeah. So you're right. You are completely right, because Way of the Heart is positioned in a really niche space. Or we think we're positioned in a really niche space. The way that I like to talk about it, and I don't know if I've spoken about it before, is the tuning fork.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that before?
Episode 1.
Episode 1. So if you remember episode 1, the tuning fork is the thing that the piano tuner brings along with him. And when he wants to, see if that middle C key is actually playing a middle C note, he hits the tuning fork, it gives him the tune, and then he tunes the piano. And so there's nothing inherently wrong with the piano. So it doesn't necessarily need therapy to become a better piano. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the pianist. It's not that they can't play beautifully. It's just the fact that the thing just needs to be tuned. Now, maybe therapy can be tuning and maybe coaching can be tuning. But when we talk about it, we talk about the tuning is about a return. It's about a return to essence. So because it's a return and not an addition, we're not doing any kind of gap analysis. A lot of the coaching modality primarily is you are here at the moment at A. You want to get to G. Okay, what's stopping you? Let's remove the blockage. Let's remove the limiting beliefs. Let's address the insecurities. Let's give you strategies for overcoming, And really what we're doing is we're mapping the gap between where I am now and where I want to be. And we could call that leveling up, or we could call that a growth mentality or a growth mindset. We're not really looking at that. What we're saying is that growth is actually a product. Growth is actually an unfolding as opposed to a leveling up. Growth is a natural expression of a form, but it's a form that's animated by an essence. So the beautiful flower that we see didn't level up. It unfolded.
Yeah.
Right? It was always going to be that flower. It's just the degree to which we just encourage and just nurture a natural unfolding. That's the sort of stuff that we're talking about. And as the flower unfolds, the flower, if it's, I always use the frangipani, the frangipani, it might aspirationally want to level up and be a rose.
Yeah. It's going to have a hard time.
It's not going to make it, right?
Yeah.
It's not, that won't happen.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, where I think some of the strategies and the frameworks in this is that they're almost encouraging that the great, cultural myth, you could be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't. I'll just say it right now. You can't.
Yeah.
You could be a fighter pilot if you wanted to be. Well, I'm 6'4" and 124 kilos. They don't put elephants in fighter jets. You could be an incredible musician if you tried hard enough, and you could be like, well, again, I'm bald and my fingers are a little bit stubby, and it hurt when I played the guitar and I couldn't stretch my fingers with the piano. Like, I'm not sure that that's my jam.
Yeah.
Like, I fundamentally don't believe that if you're a frangipani that you could be a rose, or that if you're a cactus plant, you go, but I want branches. You're just going to get little stubbly, prickly things, like, and they're going to go like that. Yeah. So we don't believe in that. What we believe in is in a natural unfolding, and the natural unfolding is not a strategy.
Yeah.
It's not, and I say this really. Water never aspires to being a waterfall.
Yeah.
Water never aspires to being an iceberg. Water never aspires to being a crystal clear lake. There's no aspiration in essence. So when we're talking about a return to essence, there's no aspiration that essence becomes anything. What there is there's this confidence that as you return to essence, whatever essence is essence will emerge into the form that it's meant to take. So you could say that in Way of the Heart, we don't believe you have a future, which is a radical thing to say. We don't believe that you can level up into some alternate future. No, you can return to who you really are, and you can live in that with a grace and a groundedness and a confidence that will become whatever that thing was meant to become.
Yeah.
The form of who you become has nothing to do with you. We would say, even outrageously in Way of the Heart, there is no becoming. The form will just be the form. I was always going to be a big white Anglo-Saxon guy. Maybe I didn't want to be that, but that was always what it was going to be. I didn't have any choice in that.
And we've gone slightly esoteric here.
Yeah.
But so I think I want to link it back. This does come back into there is no magic framework thing.
Yeah.
Because what is going to unfold is going to unfold regardless of whether or not you strive or you push or whatever it is, right? There is no way to bypass heart formation. You can't shortcut your way to heart formation or to connecting to your essence.
No, and I mean, so now what I think you're pointing to in that moment is you're pointing to the idea that a lot of the stuff that we're encouraged to do is a form of escapism.
Absolutely.
Right? That if you do, this is a form of spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we definitely don't. I mean, that would just go without saying that there's no spiritual bypass. There's no way to bypass coming back to the ground of your being and being true to who you really are. I mean, our definition of a life of bondage is a life where you don't live as who you are, you live as something else. So yeah, I don't. Almost don't even really need to talk about that, because I just don't think that stuff is even vaguely helpful. And a lot of people want that. When we ask people the question, "Are you free?" a lot of people go, "Well, what do you mean by freedom?" Now, it's a really subtle question, because what they're actually saying is they're saying, define freedom for me so that I could therefore do a matrix to see where I'm positioned.
Yes.
And then you go, well, wait a second. You're not placing yourself, you're not looking at the essence of yourself.
Yeah.
You're still setting up some straw man out here. If, define freedom for me, is you're talking about financial freedom, and then they could set up a matrix about where their finances are, or you're talking about physical health, or you're talking about, career progression, or you're talking about how many marathons I've won, or whatever it is, that whenever we hear someone say, define freedom for me, what we know is that that's probably a person who sits outside of processes, wants to have a framework to help them level up in each of these, and then we'll make an assessment about each particular category of their life. Okay, great. You can do that. It's just a very externalized way of looking at your life.
Which, as a callback to your previous metaphor, would be like turning to water and being like, okay, here's a 5-step system for how you're going to go from cloud, onto the ground and then become a river and then eventually go back out to the
Yeah.
It's ludicrous, right?
Well, it's ludicrous because water doesn't plan rivers.
Yeah.
Water doesn't project a river.
Mm-hmm.
Water just flows.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's enough of it and it just continues to flow, then it creates its own path.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an absolute inevitability to the path that water takes, which is not to say it's predestined, but the nature of water is that it always finds the lowest point.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gathers, and when enough of it's gathered and it spills over, it then finds the lowest point. It's completely Taoist. They would say, be like water, always seek the lowest point. It overcomes all obstacles because it just comes into the obstacle and then it flows around it. So water is a great example because there's no projection, there's no planning, there's no strategy. It's just its nature is to flow in and around, through, always finding the lowest point, always moving on when it fills up. Lowest point,
Mm-hmm.
always flowing towards the sea, you might say, right? So there is an inevitability about the flow of water. There's an inevitability about a seed that's in the ground becoming a sapling consistent with its genus, its core, and then becoming a tree consistent with that, and then producing the fruit consistent with that, right? So we're into that. I mean, at that point, Way of the Heart is a completely natural social philosophy.
Mm.
It's a natural social philosophy that says you are allowed to be, or you would want to be, the purest expression of who you are, without feeling any need, so where the freeing stuff comes and where the stuff that might sound vaguely familiar with some growth strategies is we're giving you ways to encourage the return.
Yeah, okay.
Right? But those ways that we give people that encourage the return, the 6 heart questions, 12 heart secrets, the courses and the processes and the activities that we're doing, they're all centered around the same thing. They're all centered around the fact that there is an essential essence that exists.
Mm.
Right? There is already something there.
Yeah.
You're not creating something that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's a major shift because there's nothing to achieve.
Mm.
No one's going to become ducks of the class.
Mm-hmm.
If that.
Yeah, no, that 100% makes sense. It's this thing about frameworks, I think, is a funny tension to hold because we do have frameworks. We have we do have practical ways to return someone to their essence. And I think that it's good to have stuff in your toolbox so long as, and going back to your point before, it doesn't become a form of escapism. And I think what happens, particularly there's a very saturated industry, which is, wellness and self-help and therapy. I think that what happens is there can be a proclivity towards just gathering a whole bunch of tools and then not actually doing anything with them.
Yeah.
And so you have someone who's very well resourced. They know all the lingo. They can identify this, that, and the other, but they're using that almost as a facade to actually doing the work.
Yeah.
And so it's a funny balance to strike. I think it's a funny topic to have a conversation about.
Well, I think a guy called Dave Snowden summed it up well. He would say that most frameworks are kind of, highly prescriptive.
Mm-hmm.
I give you the formula, you punch in the data to the formula, you get the answer. Christianity is the classic. Right? I'm not ragging on them, but it's the one that I know the best, right? Christianity is the classic. It says, here's the formula. Humanity sinned and is fallen and is separate from God.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of presuppositions in that. One is you have to agree that humanity is sinful. So you have to buy into the idea of sin. Number two, you have to buy into the idea that there is a God up there that gives a shit about that, right? And is offended by our sin.
Mm.
So humanity is fallen and lost in sin. Jesus came to fix your sin, and you have to accept Jesus in order to be in relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if you believe all the premises, if you believe the structure of the formula,
Yeah.
you input the data, you get the right output.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you come along and you go, well, number one, I'm not sure if there's a guy up there that's actually worried about my life. I'm not convinced about your definition of sin, so therefore I'm not really in need of your saviour, in which case I'm not really that worried about being reconciled to some crazy patriarchal God that has manipulated a lot of humanity for a long period of time.
Mm.
Then someone just throws out the formula so they don't get that result.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of our frameworks are highly prescriptive around the structure of the formula. So if you do the structure of the formula, you get a particular result.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, Dave Snowden was really interested. He said, because in those models, in those type of models, he goes, the model is the thing that is actually, the model is giving you the conclusion.
Yeah. It's
The
prescriptive, right?
model prescribes the
Yeah.
conclusion, right? The data doesn't. Now, he was saying in real inquiry, the data should inform the outcome, not the formula used to collate the data. It's a really fine point.
Mm.
He would say that's the difference between a prescriptive formula, like an XY matrix.
Yeah.
He would say that's he goes, because in an XY matrix, you plot it on specific spots. So therefore the data has to fit the matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what he was saying in a sense-making paradigm, and his classic is the Kinefin framework, he would say in the Kinefin framework, the framework is sufficiently flexible to allow the data to pick where it lands.
Can we talk briefly about the Kinefin framework for those who don't know it?
I
think it's helpful.
Okay, well, yeah. So we're getting into the deep weeds here, but we did say this would be riffing. So the word Kinefin was a Welsh word, or as Snowden would say, it's a Welsh word which means the multiple places of your dwelling. Mm. So it's this idea that you live in multiple places simultaneously, and it's structured around the not yet ordered world, like the ordered world and the not yet ordered world.
Yeah.
Right. And it's basically it's 4 quadrants, right? The first quadrant is stuff that we could regard as simple, and it's simple because there's known knowns. I know what I know, it's simple, you know, so the data can be plotted because it's really easy. Then the next framework just above that, and this is all on the ordered side of life, the next level above that is is what he calls complicated. Yeah, things that are complicated. By virtue of the fact is I don't know. I know what I don't know, mm-hmm. You know. So I always use the example of the electrician. You know, I know how to switch a light on. I don't know how to wire a room up.
Yeah, got it.
You know, I know how to turn a tap on. I don't know how to plumb it from the street. You know what I mean? So I know I need. So when you know what you don't know, you need to go and find someone who knows. So you go and find an expert.
But you can outsource that because you know the gap in the knowledge.
Yeah. So when it's simple, he would say you're searching for best practice because, you know, it's simple. We have a conference with 15 people and 2 presenters. We're going to need 17 chairs. Mm-hmm. That's not even hard.
Yeah.
You know, because that is a simple thing. So we know we need 17 chairs. So we just, you know, and he said, we want best practice. We don't want to walk in the room and find there's 12 chairs and be at the last minute searching for the rest, right? Because that's just stupid. Because we could have got this right. Yeah. So he just sort of says, when things are simple, we want best practice.
Yeah.
When things are complicated, we're going to need an expert because there's stuff that we know we don't know. Mm-hmm. He says when the world flips over into the unordered space, he goes, it moves from complication to complexity. Mm-hmm. And the nature of complexity is there are things, you know, I don't know what I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful definition of complexity. It's complex because I don't even know what I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not just complicated. If it was complicated, I would know what I didn't know, and I could go and find out someone who knew what I didn't know. But this is complex because I don't even know if I need a plumber or an electrician, or I don't even know. And someone comes to me and says, well, what do you think you should do? And I go, I don't even know. Someone says, what are you dealing with? I don't even know.
This was like many conversations that I had when Way of the Heart was starting.
Yeah.
The business side of it was starting.
Yeah.
I would have a conversation with someone and they would say, an expert in marketing or finance or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I don't have a background in any of those things.
Yeah.
And they'd ask how they could help. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Just talk at me and maybe.
Yeah. And this was where what you were doing in that moment is you were doing what's called emergent practice.
Right.
So best practice, expert practice, emergent practice, where emergent practice is let's walk a mile and then look back on the mile.
Right.
You know, and an answer will emerge. You know, we will discover what we don't know, and then we will address that. Some of what we don't know is simple. Some of what we don't know is complicated. Some of what we don't know, you know, we'll just walk through that. So you need a community of people that can do an emergent practice. What you don't need is an expert, because an expert will basically come in and say, "Oh, you need this." And you go, well, we're not sure. How do you know that?
Yeah.
Because an expert is an expert by virtue of the fact that they have a skill set. And if, you know, it's the old analogy, if every problem was a nail, then a hammer's a good answer, you know?
Yeah.
But in complexity, we don't know that the problem's the nail. So we need people that can emerge with us. And as we find out, the final category in his paradigm is a thing called chaos. Mm-hmm. And chaos is unknowable unknowns. Mm-hmm. It's chaotic because not only do we not know what we don't know, but there's no way to know. And he would say in that situation, you just need active practice. You just need to do something. Mm-hmm. Because by doing something, you'll drive it into either complexity, complication, or simplicity. But what you can't leave it in is chaos, right? Because we just don't know what's going on there. There's some big questions of, why do other countries invade other countries, and why do they murder people, and why is there genocide, and why do we have something like Gaza or Ukraine, or why any of those different things? And, someone might speculate at the answer, but really it just expresses itself chaotically.
Yeah.
And so you need to do something to push it out of that sort of space. And the reason this is instructive for us is not necessarily the details of the Kenneth paradigm, but what you can see with that paradigm is that's not a leveling up structure. Mm. That's what he would call a sense-making paradigm. Mm. It helps you make sense of your world. And what you bring to it is it helps you go, oh, that's simple. Oh, that's complicated. Oh, that's really complex. Oh, that's chaotic. Mm. And there was a little bit in the middle, which, I always added, which was, transcendent, as in there's stuff you'll never know and you just need to leave alone completely, right? So that's a classic sense-making paradigm, as opposed to a linear construct that dictates these are the factors, this is the data that you have to put in here, and then it's going to give you that conclusion, right? And so maybe you could say that Way of the Heart, in a way, is trying to be more the sense-making paradigm rather than the prescriptive framework. Mm-hmm. Because, and we would definitely say that, because I don't know what someone's true self is.
Totally.
I don't know what their essence is. Mm-hmm. They probably don't know what their essence is.
Yeah.
So if I come along and go, you're this, then that's highly prescriptive. Mm-hmm. If I come along with a framework where they punch in the data into a prescribed structure that punches out a relatively uniformed answer, mm-hmm. then, if I have a duck making factory and everything that comes through the door makes ducks, then anyone who engages me is going to become a duck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've yet to meet someone who does Wim Hof that doesn't hop in ice baths.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single person that does Wim Hof eventually is probably either going to go and swim in the ocean in the middle of winter or jump in an ice bath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what if you don't want to do that?
Totally.
You know, or everyone who does, there's some lady that, you know, my wife went to some natural health retreat and came home, and everyone who came from that retreat made their own broth.
Yeah.
Made their own vegetable broth. And we were buying, you know, trailer loads worth of things and boiling all the vegetables, and then the vegetables got so boiled that we tipped out all these beautiful vegetables just to keep the broth.
Yeah.
And I thought, everyone that goes to that damn thing's making broth. You know, it's like if you don't come away from that conference with a conviction to make broth, you just have missed the point.
It's like the cult of broth.
It's the broth cult, you know.
The brotherun, if you will.
And everyone is like, breakfast you eat like a king, you know, lunch you eat like a prince, dinner you eat like a pauper. So I was having to wake up in the morning and eat a gigantic freaking meal at the beginning of the day. And I'm just going like, do the other people that you went to the conference, are they having a 3-course meal at 7 o'clock in the morning? You know, like, have to get up at 5 o'clock just to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after a while, you just go, yeah, everyone's doing that, but it's like, oh, it's highly prescriptive.
Yeah.
And then if you ate and had a big meal at night, you felt guilty because you bridged the formula.
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
So
You
all
ruined
of that,
the framework.
Yeah. You're not. Well, the classic comment is you're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
Right. The same thing happened in Zen Buddhism. It's like, you know, the Buddha sat down, you know, and he sat under the Bodhi tree and he wasn't going to get up until he was enlightened. And so there's the big theme, you know, and when Buddhism went from, when Taoism merged with Hinduism, you know, with the Bodhi Vista and Buddhism, and eventually went to Japan, you know, we got the emergence of Zen. And then there's a big argument in Zen about, because the word Zen is just Zazen, which just means sitting, right? Like the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree. Then there's the big argument is like, we sit in order to be enlightened. And there's a bunch of Chan Buddhists that went, no, we sit because we are enlightened. No, we sit to become enlightened. Oh, so then sitting becomes prescriptive. But if I try to sit down and be a Zen Buddhist in order to be enlightened,
you're in a world of pain.
I don't know, I can't do this.
Yeah.
5 minutes into it, I can't
Your
feel
legs are numb.
Can't feel the bottom part of my body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't even get up. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I am a little bit better. I can sit a little bit longer. You know.
This is interesting though. This idea that prescription hinders flow. Because you know when we take this back to what you were saying earlier about essence is going to unfold in whatever form it's going to unfold in. You know, the essence of the oak is as much present in the seedling as it is in the fully formed tree. To then put a bunch of prescriptions around that to then try and, you know, frame or mold the tree in a particular way is going to be a hindrance more than a help. Yeah,
I think it's completely true. And it's if we go back to the major, if we go back to why we all have such a proclivity or such a love for frameworks, look at the way we've been educated.
Yeah.
This is Ken Robinson's whole jam, is that we have an industrialized way of educating people in the West. It's completely industrial. We batch them according to gender, according to age. We put them through standardized curriculum. We put them through, you know, a lot of the time in Australia, we make them all wear the same clothes. So we kind of homogenize them, you know. We classify, homogenize, and then pump them through a system that has standardized output so we can measure the quality of the output. That's an industrial model of education, right? And so after you've been through an industrialized, you know, standardized process and you're used to homogenization, then basically there's something deep within us that just goes, I feel comfortable in that.
Yeah.
Prescribe for me, you know, what I need to wear, what I need to learn, how I need to get, you know, a good mark in my test. Tell me what the markers are. Tell me what the framework is so I can get a result here, right? And in in a commodified culture where we value commodities based on, how good people say they are, then yeah, that we want a framework that gets us a good result, and we want a standardized framework so we can apply it across the system. It's like, okay, so what's the standardized framework for you being you?
Yeah.
What's the standardized framework for a gardenia becoming a gardenia? What's the standardized framework for a cat? I've got 2 cats. One of them's there. She's neurotic and almost never turns up. I don't know why. She's just walked in the room. And he always turns up.
Yeah.
And it's like, if there was a standardized framework, both of them would fail because they have no interest in it whatsoever, because they're just in their felineness,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
which kind of sounds ridiculous, but it's almost like all of nature gets this and we don't, So I just, it's not a rejection of frameworks. It's just an awareness that within the context of frameworks, there's often a formulaic process which we're very predisposed to put confidence in, and there's a standardized way of putting people through a formulaic process that if you put this data, if you put this in here and this in here, you're going to get that. And I just think from a perspective of getting someone to be grounded in their essence, there's problems with that because it's in the complex space. I don't know. A lot of people don't know what their essence is. They don't know their true self. So, Way of the Heart will fold back on metaphors like water, the native world, where we'll say there's an original imprint that, we'll borrow from the Taoists and say there was an original imprint in absence. And what we're really saying there is that the essence of Jess existed even before Jess became a Jess. Before you took on form, the essence of Jess was there. It takes on form. And then you need to let that form unfold naturally. So all of our way of the heart strategies are, let's remove the obstacles to you being you.
Yeah.
That's essentially the framework conversation.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Thanks.
Hope you did enjoy that one, folks. It's a bit of a contentious one, but that's why we're not against frameworks. They have their place, but Way of the Heart is not seeking to be a framework in that regard. It's seeking to be a Snowden-esque sense-making paradigm or a series of prompts to aid you in the unfolding of who you really are, and to initially just help you be grounded and confident to be grounded in the essence of who you are. So thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Heart Riffing. If today's conversation resonated, you can find more of our work, including courses, mentoring, and workshops, at www.wayoftheheart.com.au or on our Instagram, Way of the Heart Official. We'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or questions, so please always feel free to message or comment. We look forward to seeing you next time.